Hi, this is Joshua Stallman from BrooklynComicShop.com, and I'm here to share with you a CGC unboxing. So we're going to do that right now live, and as you can see, it's going to be a total surprise. If you don't know what CGC is, it's Certified Graded Collectibles, and we sent them off comic books to be graded on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 obviously being poor. To give you an idea of what a high grade comic is, it's a comic that's going to come back with a grade of 7 to 10. A medium grade will be 4 to 6, and a low grade will be lower than 4. When they're doing their 10-point scale, they also include half grades, so 7.5, 8, 8.5, until you get to 9. Then everything after 9 is by 2s. 9, 9.2, 9.4. The third-party grading system is really good because it brings a sense of uniform to what can be very subjective, and objectivity to, taking a look at a comic book and really determining what the true grade and then, of course, true value is. CGC has a couple of different things they offer when they do their grading. One is your comic book can come back. If you send a regular comic book out, it will most likely come back on a blue label, which means that it's just a regular comic book. If your comic book was autographed and it was overseen by CGC as that was happening, then that will come back with a yellow label. A purple label will be for any kind of restoration work that may have been done to your comic book. Like if your comic book was missing, half of a page or something like that, and you paid to have it restored by a professional restorer, that would be noted by a purple label. And then finally, a green label is also their final part, and that's for anything that's done to the book or removed from the book that really doesn't affect the content of the book. So I will show you that, because that's actually what we're going to take a look at. Some of these will be green labels, and that will be because they've been autographed, but they haven't been verified by CGC. Instead, these were books that existed as signed comics before CGC. And I'll explain to them as we go. But let's show you some easy ones. Again, everything that I'm going to show you is going to be available on BrooklynComicShop.com. I'm going to start with, with Invoice. Here's my Invoice. Okay. This is the blue label. So this book is a great comic book. This is Omegaman number 3, the first appearance of Lobo. Lobo as a character is featured on Krypton. He's one of DC's great characters from the 90s, more of an anti-hero. In the original book, he wasn't really as much an anti-hero as much as just almost a bounty hunter. So this came back in a 9.4, which is exceptionally high grade. We're going to try to display it here, but it looks like I can only do 2 books at a time. Another blue one is, this is The Killing Joke. And The Killing Joke is very famous. It's a first printing. It should be a first printing. No number. I guess it would say if it was a second printing, but the green tells me it's the first printing. And this came back in 9.8. This is a very famous Joker story where it gives Joker's origin, done by Brian Boland and written by Alan Moore. This came back in 9.8. Next we have Deadpool Mark with a Mouth number 7, 9.6. This is the first appearance of Lady Deadpool. Again, blue label. It has an image wraps around the back, too. Spawn number 1 came back at a 9.4. What's special about Spawn number 1 is that's obviously the first appearance of Spawn. It was one of Image's greatest comics when it came out. It was one of its highest sellers. And it's still published today after over 300 issues. What's unique about this version of Spawn number 1 is the newsstand UPC. And that means that a pharmacy or a newsstand carrier, not a comic book store, carried this book because it has a UPC. And many pharmacies did not carry new books that they didn't know anything about, especially from unproven companies like Image. So newsstand versions are much harder to find because there just wasn't as many of them printed. And this is an example of a newsstand version of Spawn number 1. And it looks like our last blue label is going to be Harley Quinn 9.8. This is the famous cover by Alex Ross. It's the first printing. And this is the introduction of Harley Quinn to the DC continuity. She'd previously been debuted on the animated series and also in the animated series comic book. But in 1999, she was introduced to the actual continuity of DC Comics in the Batman universe during the No Man's Land storyline. And this is actually her first appearance. So now we're going to do green labels. And the one I really want to start off with is this one. This is the Batman the Killing Joke. It came back 9.0. This is not the first printing. I believe this is the third printing. And what's unique about this, if we can get a little bit closer on it, is going to be right here, where it's signed by Bob Kane. Now the problem with CGC comics that are yellow label is CGC has to witness the signature. And CGC was a company that came in, I think it was formed around 2000, 2001. Well, Bob Kane died in 1998. So you can't have a CGC witnessed signature of Bob Kane. It just doesn't exist. So what you have to do is rely on knowledge of comics, signed comics, certificate of authenticities if there are any, and the reputation of the person you're buying it from. And with this Bob Kane signature, it absolutely is real. It came from a collection of somebody who I know. There were actually 2 Bob Kane signed books. This was one. There was a trade paperback of The Dark Knight Returns, which is going into my personal collection. And of course, it's, Bob Kane. How can you not like it? So this is going to give you the idea of the differences between a green label and a yellow label. So as somebody who avidly goes to conventions since the early 90s, the other green label books will be certified through the Brooklyn Comic Shop because we are the witness on the actual books being signed. And so this is the Image First reprinting of The Walking Dead #1. It is signed by Robert Kirkman, which was done at New York Comic Con. Tony Moore signed the book for us in Baltimore in 2016, which was the only time he signed comic books for us, so we're very happy to have had that opportunity, and we kept it long enough to catch up with Robert Kirkman at New York Comic Con. So you have the 2 creators of The Walking Dead signing a copy of The Walking Dead #1, the Image First edition. Another book that we had done, which took us some time to get, was the Deadpool Mark for Money. This is the Rob Liefeld variant cover. We were able to get Rob Liefeld to sign it. This was at Jim Hanley's Universe. He did a signing there, a very rare signing when the Deadpool movie came out. And you'll see some of these other books that are Deadpools were signed at that time in New York City. And then later on at New York Comic Con, then Fabian, the writer and co-creator of Deadpool, was able to sign the books that's signed by both original co-creators of Deadpool. And this came back in 9.6. All these books are coming in at above a 9, which is what I did expect, but I was, you never know because the grading on these are pretty strict. This is a 9.6 Deadpool #1. This is the 2016 series. It was also signed by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza. And then the final one for today is going to be a True Believers, which is the reprint series by Marvel, of the first appearance of Deadpool in its entirety. This is the original story that premiered Deadpool and the assassination plot on cable. It also premieres the first appearance of Domino here. And a very famous cover, but this, like I said, is the True Believers version. It's called Deadpool #1, but it's really a reprinting of New Mutants '98, the first appearance. And it is signed by both creators of Deadpool. Rob Liefeld signed it here. Fabian Nicieza signed it in silver right on the side. and this came back at a 9.8. So I mean, this is pretty much near perfect. To give you an idea, most books that are super high grade come back at 9.6, 9.8. To get a book at 9.9 is rare. To get a book at 10.0 is really unfathomable. I mean, it exists, but it's very, you can have a book right out of the press and it not be a 10.0. So to have a book at 9.8 is extremely high grade. This is all we have in our box of goodies for today. You can see them online shortly. We have a great selection of vintage comic books, action figures, prints, also original artwork. In fact, we have original artwork by Rob Liefeld of Deadpool up right now at brooklyncomicsshop.com. Thank you for watching.